Guys, let's go straight away to the front lines review, and now the hottest direction is in Shevchenka village. Ukraine tries to bypass this village between Peshana and Shevchenko. So the current vector of attack looks something like that, and I start to receive quite positive news about the territorial gain of the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army was out there spotted on those fields already. Yeah, we don't have this update on the Myko 73 map, but I checked out the other sources and they confirmed that Ukraine started this maneuver not far away again from the Pokrovsk. This information was also shared by Andrew Perpetua, and he got it from the Ukrainian daily map updates or daily updates in general. And yeah, some of the Russian sources also confirmed the battle for Shevchenko. So I'm waiting for the new military update for the final confirmation about what is happening out there. The information is coming not fully. I cannot confirm with the drone videos what is happening there, but hopefully our guys are successful. As for this position in Peshana, there is the big industrial complex, and it was hit a couple of days ago with the Ukrainian FPV. We have the confirmation about it. Russia used this facility to hide their forces, but it didn't go according to plan. And sorry guys, I cannot play this video. Probably today I'm gonna film kind of the big video for my Rumble channel where I will share all of the information about what exactly happening, like to show you all of the drone videos, because on YouTube I cannot do it. But I can show you some of the other videos of the Russian mid-wave strike. So for this strike, Russia in general used 12 of the armored vehicles, infantry fighting vehicles and transportation vehicles, plus one of the tank. Their tactics is to go forward. If they feel the resistance, they now turn around. Wow, it is something unusual for Russia. Usually they go and go despite their losses. But at the same time, they land their infantry. So for Ukraine, there are two of the tasks: to kaput the Russian vehicles, and after that, the Russian infantry, which is hiding somewhere nearby in the forest lines. For the vehicles, Ukraine uses FPV drones as usual, and for the infantry, drone drops and occasionally FPV as well, but with different shells obviously. And now let's go to the Kursk region, where Russia took under control the local checkpoint, border control checkpoint of Sudzha, it's called. And definitely those were the Russian paratroopers, so Russia uses the best of the best forces out there in Kursk. But despite their territorial gains, the operation for them in Kursk even is not going according to plan, and they have even command losses. Yes. Well, a Russian commander of the National Guard, Major Marat Davydov, was found KIA because of the HIMARS strikes on the Russian command headquarters in Kursk region. It means that the Russian army is too much self-confident. They are fast, they're furious in Kursk region, but it's better to keep the speed down and secure their army men and miraculously commanders. But they have the other tactics, and it's not the first commander which Russia lost for the last week. Well, Ukrainian sources say that Russia lost roughly 40,000 troops over 6 months of Ukrainian Kursk operation. Could this number be real? Because, you know, it is very huge. Well, I would say including wounded personnel, yes, it could be. As for the Belgorod updates, there is nothing new, like Ukrainian army went to Demidovka and to Popovka, took 2 of the villages of Belgorod People's Republic. Well, Russia shows that they use some of the drones there on some of the local buildings, but not sure if our guys were there at the moment. By the way, my friends, if you really want to support the job that I do here on YouTube, you're very welcome to my Patreon. The link for my page I'll put just in the video description below. Thank you so much for your kind support. One of the Ukrainian commanders tells that Ukraine is successful in Pokrovsk because Russia is running out of the infantry forces. He says that sometimes we are taking building after building and there is no one inside. It has never been like that, especially in Pokrovsk. As for me, it is kind of strange because before Pokrovsk was the main direction for the Russian army, I would say in the eastern front line. All of that jump which they did from Avdiivka was for taking Pokrovsk actually, because it's the very crucial and important settlement. But instead Russia is now concentrating on this direction, but here they have just limited success, and also they push somewhere not far away from New York. In Toretsk they lose their positions. They also try to attack in Zaporizhia direction, in Kharkiv, also in Liman over here, losing many of the vehicles. So yeah, the situation is kind of strange as for me. So Russia attacks in multiple directions using just limited amount of the forces, and it is understandable that the Ukrainian army is waiting there elsewhere for the Russian army to advance and continue to use drones to kaput their vehicles and infantry. As for the convoy attack that I showed you before, well, I cannot show you the full video, but there Russia sent many of the vehicles, definitely, and they accumulated those before. So Russia has the problem with armored vehicles. They accumulate those, they send the vehicles in a straightforward attacks, those vehicles are kaputed, and then they wait again for new soldiers to come and new vehicles be sent to the front lines. Before we saw those convoy attacks almost every day, but now once in 3 or 4 days. Sometimes once a week. Nevertheless, Putin believes that Russian forces overwhelm Ukrainian troops. His recent quote, "There are grounds to think that we will finish them off, finish Ukraine," which is complete nonsense. Since the start of the special military operation, Russia hasn't reached any of its goals. Moreover, Ukraine deoccupied many of the territories, including Kherson city. The biggest city which Russia was able to occupy is Mariupol, but it was bombed completely, grounded. Well, there is only one big thing which Russia achieved since the start of the special military operation. Well, they've created the ground corridor from Rostov-on-Don Oblast to Crimea. That's the only major profit which they have. And they made the Sea of Azov their internal one. But this achievement wasn't announced as the major goal for Russia. They spoke something about demilitarization, denazification, and occupation of the regions of Ukraine, which they cannot do. Even Luhansk Oblast partially is under Ukrainian control. Yeah, the small part, but still Ukraine is out there. And a couple of days ago I was speaking about the possible variants for the Kerch Bridge, and some of the followers were saying that Russia built the railroad here. Well, it's not true, Russia didn't do it. They just built the road to Berdyansk. The rest of the construction works which were posted in internet before were relative to the gas pipeline. It wasn't the road built. There was the big article about it on a deep state military map source with all of the pictures, and I believe them. For Russia, Kerch Bridge is the main variant to deliver their forces to occupy Crimea and later on to send to Kherson Oblast, or as they do now in Zaporizhia. Why Ukraine is not cancelling the bridge? Well, I've told about it in one of my videos. I filmed it 2 days ago, so you may check it out. Russia again attacked Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, including this restaurant in form of the ship in Dnipro city. It was a famous restaurant out there in the central place of Dnipro, and now it is gone. Also, the hotel, by the way, was hit, and there are some of the casualties, unfortunately. That's how Russia basically follows this ceasefire initiative by Donald Trump. They don't care about Donald Trump and his opinion, and they just use him to achieve their own result. And by the way, Peskov already mentioned that they want to exit this ceasefire agreement because Ukraine somehow is not following it. But Russia started to attack Ukraine with more of the Shahed drones, more missiles, right after the talk between President Putin and President Trump. Yeah, if I should call Putin a president after all, because all of the elections in Russia are just fake. And you know, I guess there is the answer after all of why Russia is so volatile now on the front lines in Ukraine. They accumulate the forces to start a new offensive operation. We had some sort of the signals from Ukrainian president's office before, like Zelensky said that Russia is planning a new big offensive, but I thought that this information could be just a political play because it was announced right after the phone call between Trump and Putin. But intelligence also shared this information to media already, that Russia expects to launch a fresh offensive to strengthen its negotiation position. Associated Press report about it, and some of the other sources as well, in relation to the intelligence services of Ukraine. Well, it might explain a lot why Russia is not that active as they were before. Also in Pokrov's direction, they're just collecting their army somewhere. And also if they finish their Kursk operation, they would have many of their units available, which they could also use on Ukrainian front lines. And for this reason, Ukraine actually started the assault towards Belgorod Oblast to keep Russia busy out there, to postpone the start of the Russian attack on Ukraine. So definitely those fake negotiations for Russia are very profitable. They have the time to prepare for something bigger.
An ice-smothered island now claimed entirely and aggressively by the United States.
So the visit of J.D. Vance and his spouse actually wasn't cancelled, but it was modified. Before they wanted to meet with some of the people there to look at the local sightseeing, but they went straight to the military base of the United States of America in Greenland. Yeah, the public visit was cancelled and they were delivered straight to the base. Vance met with some of the servicemen, and later on there was the press conference where he stated that Greenland should be independent and that Denmark is very bad in conducting its security over Greenland. So Greenland is under a huge threat somehow, and it should go in hugs with the United States of America. He also said something about respect of the Greenland independence, but at the same time they want to occupy Greenland, which is very strange. The American base is located over here at the western side of Greenland. It carries the name Pifufik Space Base because of the maybe local region is called Pifufik or local settlement. I would say it's not very big, but still there are some of the barracks, even the local church is there, some of the reservoirs for the aviation fuel. You may say that this part of the airfield is without any use. The conditions are very severe, so they clean just the part of the airport. No airplanes are visible, all of them are being stored in those hangars. You may find more information about it in Wikipedia. So before it was Thule Air Base and it was transferred to United States Space Force Base. And yes, in Wikipedia we already have the note that J.D. Vance with his wife visited that facility. Well, this base in Greenland is not really huge, but the United States has its own interest in Greenland, and they may use this base as the bridgehead to start the occupation of Greenland. Well, the United States Army may land their forces not just in their military base, but in other airports of Greenland. There are not many, but they are. The occupation of this vast land looks unreal because of the terrible environmental conditions, but in fact there are just few of the settlements on this island. The population of the island is very low. So yes, with mighty American force they might do it easily, quite easily. And judging on rhetorics of J.D. Vance plus Donald Trump, I think they're really looking through this scenario. Well, maybe Denmark might try to secure Greenland, but again, against the United States Army, it might spark kind of the big war, between former allies, I would say. Well, maybe Denmark should ask Ukraine to deploy Third Assault Brigade to this island or Azov Battalion, just, as a peacekeepers. And who is next? Like Iceland, Canada? Yeah, after all, keeping the American base in your country is more risky than it is secure. And that's, by the way, what Putin done in Crimea. There was the Russian base in Sevastopol and he sent the reinforcements, and that's how they occupied Crimea just in a few days. Trump has a variant which worked for Putin, so why it wouldn't work for Donald Trump? I'm sure he thinks like that. I hope that the American special military operation in Greenland wouldn't happen, but all of the signs point out that it might happen and the probability of it is very high. Alright, Trump once again recalled that he has some of the mineral deal proposal to Ukraine, but this time he included all of the natural resources of Ukraine in that deal, plus the control of how Ukraine is going to invest those. And this new deal has nothing in common with the previous one, which was almost agreed by Ukraine and the United States. Well, Ukraine at least agreed on that, because all of the investments should have stayed in Ukraine, but now Ukraine has to pay directly to the United States banks. That's it. And moreover, Ukraine now will have loan for all of the military support which it obtained from the Biden's administration and, by the way, Congress, because Republicans also voted for the military support of Ukraine. But back then there was no condition for Ukraine to pay everything of that back, especially then the vast part of those funds were staying in the United States of America, to pay salaries for the employees of the military facilities, to upgrade the equipment, and so on. And the Washington Post, in their article, they're very surprised about this behavior of the Trump's administration. They compare it again to reparations, that Ukraine owns something, that Ukraine lost the war against the United States of America somehow and now has to pay back. Yeah, this new deal is absolutely crazy. Again, Donald Trump is pushing Ukraine somehow, not Russia. Ukraine has been attacked, Ukrainian economy is suffering, and this, how to call him? Vulture, yeah? The bird is circling over Ukraine, trying to find out what to eat more. Yeah, that attitude is absolutely unacceptable, and moreover, United States of America, so Donald Trump and his administration, they're not even hiding that. You suffer, it's your problem. Moreover, you're guilty and we're not gonna help you. Remember how Donald Trump stated that Ukraine started this war and that resisting to the superpower country like Russia is a bad idea. So yeah, instead of support, we have this, which is absolutely crazy, guys. Donald Trump he's an idiot and he has nothing human left in him. And even if I speak about the law, the deal for Ukrainian military support didn't include that Ukraine has to repay. And now Trump wants to get something. I would say get lost, orange hat. Yeah, the good thing that Zelensky and the Ukrainian government, they're against it, and I would say that Zelensky has to look for his personal security, because not just Russia but also the United States of America are obsessed with idea to change Ukrainian president, and what measures they might implement for Russia, for example, to take control over Ukraine and for Trump to get his billions of dollars from Ukraine. Well, yeah, it's kind of risky for Zelensky. It's better to take care about security. And Zelensky said that United States will never give weaponry to Ukraine just like they did before, only for money. You suffer, we don't care, take the loan and you'll pay it later, like your kids, grandkids and so on, if you survive under Russian strikes. But something tells me that even in this case, Donald Trump will not support Ukraine with weapons. Like what Ukraine has are the previous packages agreed by the previous White House administration, and Donald Trump, well, he's not even looking for that sort of the solution to continue the support of Ukraine with his own initiatives. Donald Trump is a profitable president, but for Russia. And plus we have the warning from the German intelligence. They say that Putin is getting ready for the war against NATO European countries. Well, they say that it's likely happening, likely preparing. The information shared by the Bild source. The source is not that reliable, but nevertheless they have their connections in German intelligence and they shared the information just on their tabloid, or how to call them. And here they're saying about the large-scale conventional war, but Russia has not infinite resources, right? They're struggling now on the front lines, maybe because they're just accumulating the forces, but I don't think that they'll strike Europe in the coming months. I think they will concentrate their forces in Ukraine. What they might do is just to announce a new mobilization in Russia and potentially hire the army personnel from Belarus, because we see how Russia almost annexed that country. And there are constant military drills happening in Belarus, so their army in a way is getting some of the experience, at least during their training. This source says that despite the concentration of the Russian troops in Ukraine, the Russian Air Force and Navy remain combat capable, but you need infantry to actually start the annexation of the country. Yeah, you may do some of the airstrikes, missile strikes, but it's not enough. You need to deploy the ground forces. Well, they add here, once the war in Ukraine ends, Russian units could quickly be redeployed to Baltic states. As a variant, yes, but Russian forces are very busy in Ukraine and there is no end of this war at the end of the tunnel. Despite those peace deal talks, no, it is not happening as we see. Russia strikes Ukraine, Ukraine strikes Russia. Combat area is quite active on the front lines, but you know, the Russian economy is still out there. They are still capable to produce their military. They have some countries to trade with, and moreover, they're now communicating with the United States of America to restore relations and lift the sanctions. Well, the Russian economy, after all, is not feeling good. There are many of the signs showing that, and even the head of the Russian Central Bank called the best case scenario for the Russian economy is the soft landing. I don't know what that term means, but still it might take years and years for the Russian economy really to suffer and for Russia not being able to produce its military any longer. For, let's say, the same crisis to start as it happened in 80s in Soviet Union. Then the oil was damn cheap, then the Soviet economy was not really capable to compensate a huge debt of the country. Yeah, Russians like to say about American debt, but USA economy is just bigger than that debt. For Russia, the story is totally different. Now Russia takes the loans to produce the military, which is one-way ticket for Russia. Someday they will stop. Someday there will be a huge crisis. But as I say to you, it will not happen tomorrow. It might take years. As for Soviet Union, during, by the way, their Afghan war, it also took 10 years for them to suffer in it. And after it, they withdrew their forces. And there was the start of the massive collapse of the Soviet Union. I hope Russia will face the same destiny. Well, I actually do not hope. I'm sure about this scenario. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please press the huge like because it helps me a lot. And I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.